Howdy, Ags. AP here from the Tailgate. All Aggie Football, all the time. Brought to you by Homes, building Aggie dreams. Folks, don't forget to email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. Corey, what's up, man?
Hey, buddy. Ready to rock and
up
roll.
here in the DFW area, buddy.
Yeah, you look like it. You got your coat, your beanie on. Is it is the heater out there or something?
Oh man, I just I try not. I'm trying to conserve some electricity. A little bit of power.
Yeah, I hear those lawyers right now. It's a bad time for them. You need to.
Well, I've got to pay for those higher gas prices, so that's
yeah.
So, little NFL news, man. This week's been kind of crazy. Some quarterback news in the NFL. Everybody's always excited about quarterback news. We got Aaron Rodgers decides to stay put there in Green Bay. Big news for those guys. Apparently, they're going to offer him a massive contract. Unlike Aaron Rodgers, it looks like Russell Wilson's going to be moving on. He's going to go and play for the Broncos. They're getting a pretty nice little package over there in Seattle, a couple of first rounders, a couple of second rounders in exchange for him. And then news that's very important to you, Carson Wentz getting traded over to the Commanders.
Yes, right.
For a couple of third-round picks.
It's a great deal, except for that $28 million they got to pay him.
That and the fact that, in Indianapolis, they've been wanting to bench him all year. So how good is he?
He put up great stats last year. I don't understand Indianapolis. who are they going to replace him with? It doesn't make any sense to me. But no, I don't understand the Aaron Rodgers deal. That right there, the team has just handcuffed itself. They're not going to get any better in the next few years. They're about as good as they're going to get. They're not going to be afraid. They're going to be able to afford to sign players. Who can they sign?
Yeah, Adams is going to get tagged. So they'll keep him for this year. But after that, are they going to be able to get him on a long-term deal? I don't know. They probably won't be able to afford it. So interesting movement in the NFL. Should make the next season should make it a lot of fun, to say the least.
Right.
See what happens on that. Some LSU news. One, they brought in another quarterback, transfer from Arizona State, Daniels. If you recall, this kid had a phenomenal freshman year a couple of years ago. Almost 3,000 yards, something like 17 touchdowns with only 2 interceptions, and he's a really good athlete as well. Unfortunately, he sort of hasn't done anything since. He hadn't played quite as well the last couple of years, but it adds another guy to the mix to compete with Miles Brennan. No?
Yeah, I agree with you. The kid's got a good arm, athletic, real thin. I didn't watch a whole lot of him being in the Pac-12. I don't think too many people did. It's probably why he moved. And people don't believe in that, but it's a true. A lot of those kids on the West Coast, they don't get as much TV time, and so they got to go out east or just get so they can be noticed. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to move the needle too much with LSU.
Yeah. We'll see if it really if it can overcome any penalties that they get, because the NCAA also announced that they're looking at some penalties for those guys. Of course, they did self-impose already on the football side, but their basketball coach has been known to be paying players for years now, and they still haven't. The NCAA hasn't done anything yet, have they, Corey?
No, that's the ongoing joke there at LSU. They've been breaking rules forever, and this whole paying the players, they've been doing it for a long time. They're just like, hey, now we can get away with it. So yeah,
they could be the last. They could be the last team, the last football or basketball team to ever get penalized for paying their players.
I know, that's hilarious. That's good stuff right there.
Saw a funny story. Deion Sanders, one of my favorite football players of all time, Deion. I think he's the greatest cornerback that's ever played the game. 2 toes amputated.
Yeah, I know. I read about that. He had blood clots. This is what it said, and they said they had to cut his leg open to just let it breathe or something like that to did you read about that to get oxygen or something in there? I don't know what it was. It was something crazy, but yeah, he ended up losing a big toe and the second toe beside his big toe.
Hey,
I don't know
didn't
which
stop him
foot.
from being on the field coaching, man. That guy's tough.
Well, do you remember when they were playing in that game and he was on a wheel on that little carty thing? Is
Yeah,
that what it was? Is that what
he
that
was on.
was?
I'm guessing that's what that was.
Huh? Because they never
Uh,
said what it was during the
no,
games. They're just like, oh,
no.
Dion's over there on one of those little carts.
Hey,
Huh.
I give him credit.
Yeah,
Uh, some let's move it into some Aggie news here. Non-football first. Q Jackson, named SEC Player of the Week, as well as second team All SEC. Thoughts?
very deserving. They've been incredible the last, I don't know, what is it, 3-4 games. They've been on this little winning streak. They Marcus Williams no longer with the team. The team seems to be playing better without him.
Yep.
A lot of things. He's been taking over games. I mean, he's taking the ball to the bucket. He's shooting. He's their defense is crazy. I mean, when I say crazy, they're just everywhere. It's not like
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a scheme or system they have going on, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like a bunch of guys just running around with their on fire. Like, hey, and they get the ball, they get turnovers, and they get easy buckets from it. So yeah, they're doing great. I mean,
Turnovers and easy buckets.
they're not really beating people. I mean, they're not beating people. They're beating them bad. I mean, they're beating them. They're up 15, 20 points in these games, and they're holding on to some of them just to win. But for the most part, it's not like what we've seen before.
They held on against Mississippi State. They made it closer than we would have liked. Of course, I'll tell you this, and everybody was starting to get on Buzz a little bit, but I'm still 100% behind Buzz. I think he's a very good coach. I think they're still, you know, both very young and lacking some top end talent over there. And yet they're always competitive. Right now, the thing that's going to cost them this season is those losses in the middle of the season to schools like, was it Vanderbilt, to Georgia, and teams that they should have beaten. And it'll probably keep them out of the tournament because now they're going to have to play Florida, and if they win that one, Auburn, and they probably need both wins to make it into the tournament. Don't you think, Courtney?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, 9-game losing streak in the middle of the season will kind of that hurts.
That hurt.
Yeah, it
I
hurts
think
a
it was
lot.
8-game losing streak, or it was 9 out of 10 or something like that, right?
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't pretty, and
Yeah.
I mean, hey, they exceeded my expectations this year. I'm proud of Buzz what he's done. I think he has limited talent. Next year could be a little better. They're losing Q and who else are they losing on that team? Is it one more player? I can't remember. It might be one more, but I don't even know what they have coming in. To be honest with you, according to next
Yeah,
year.
I mean, Q's the only one of really any consequence there that I think they're going to lose. Unfortunately, because he's had a big season for him. It'd be nice to have him back for one more year, but I think he's already been here a while.
Well, it's the same thing as last year. I mean, it doesn't matter what you have at the end of this season. You never know what's going to happen next year because last year we lost
Yeah,
the whole team. I think Q was the only person coming back along with Gordon. We
Gordon.
didn't have a whole lot coming back. So I mean, we could have a whole new team next year. You don't know.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing.
Mhm.
I'm impressed with what he's done. Like you said, I think the expectations were very, very low coming into the season, right?
Yeah.
After last year. All right, so there was also this interesting article on ESPN. We won't go into a lot of detail here, but they had top 10 coaching hires of the last 5 years. They included Pittman in Arkansas, Traylor at UTSA, Chadwell at Coastal Carolina, Cristobal at Oregon, Napier at Louisiana, Orgeron at LSU, Matt Rule at Baylor, Riley at Oklahoma, Ryan Day at Ohio State, and Fickle at Cincinnati. Any comments?
It's. I mean, what do you say about it? It's last 10 years. I mean, Jimbo's not on the list. Should he be? I don't know. Odron's on the list. Should he be? No.
Probably
It
not.
might be one of the 10 worst hires. I mean, one good season. And Fickle, it's right up there. Matt Rule, I think he's a good coach, but he was only
I think
there
it's
for a
hard to
couple of
argue
years.
against Fickle being number one. I mean, he took a Cincinnati team into the playoffs, right? And now they're
Right.
going into the Big 12, and what they did the last couple of seasons is a big reason for that.
And
I
that's the
think
last 10 years. They're saying the last 10 years?
last 5 years.
5 years. I was about to say, because 10 years, man, I don't remember that far back.
Yeah.
I think he was here 10 years ago.
That list would be a lot longer. I'll say this,
Yeah.
I think Pittman should be higher on this list. There's 5 of these guys that are no longer at the programs, which maybe I don't know if I'd give him as much weight, as far as great hires
Right.
because of that at this point. But I think Pittman should be one of the top 2 or 3 with what he's done in Arkansas. So um,
Absolutely. Yeah, he's done a great job.
obviously Jimbo has been a good hire for the Aggies. I don't know if he's a top 10 hire in the last 5 years, but I'd say he's probably in consideration. And you take Orgeron out, he may be taking that spot, right? So
Yeah.
a couple of things there. So Corey, spring practice has started, baby. Spring practice has started. The football team is playing football again. They're not
Yeah,
just lifting weights and running, baby.
that's right. They're
So
getting after it, and I wish I could see it. To be honest with you, I wish I could be on the sideline just being live, but
very
they won't
limited
let us.
access. Yeah, very limited access over there in the practice fields. A couple of pieces of news that we got this past week from Jimbo in his press conference. A few players not participating in practice. So McKinley Jackson, Jalen Jones, Brian George, Groves Killebrew, the freshman who's on campus, not participating. We sort of knew that he had an injury coming in. Deuce Harmon, Donnell Harris, Darius Jones, Brunlo Dindy, a freshman, coming in as well. Not going to be getting the reps there. On offense, Chapman, Eli Stowers at tight end, Hez Jones at receiver, Foster at center. That's because he's competing in track. And A-Chain will be doing some work, but no contact work. So probably just getting some drill work and stuff like that for A-Chain. Once again, competing in track also. So, and he doesn't need to be there. The truth is he doesn't need to be there, right, Corey?
Right. Yeah.
I also find out, I think Luke Matthews is retiring from football.
Yeah, he needs to. He's been around for a while. He's a Matthews. I think he's set for life. I don't think he needs to do anything else.
He wasn't going to play on. He wasn't going to play on this team anyway.
Nah, his
right.
his opportunities have passed him. He's been sitting there for 2 or 3 years just waiting to get in, and his injuries have just been killing him. Poor guy. Feel bad for him. But this whole players about being out right now, it's not a big surprise. This happens every year. Every year it's players out. Now it's
some of these guys are veterans that have played for a couple of years and not guys that you're too worried about, right? I mean, with Jackson Jones, and things like that. So,
well, you know whose name didn't make the list? Whose name did you not say? Baylor Cup. Did you say Cup? Is Cup on that list?
That's correct. Cup is not on that list. Cup is practicing. Cup is practicing. And so let's get into it. We'll start with the offense. And Baylor Cup was with the first team, right? Actually, him and Wright in 2 tight end sets running with that first team. And you're right. The guy is he's huge. One, he's big, he's tall, he's athletic.
Yep.
All those things. We'll see if he can stay healthy.
I hope so, man. I really do hope he can, because I mean, even having the 2 tight ends on the field is something we've talked about with all the talent and depth we have at the tight end position. That would be awesome, just to see him let's see Wigman get him the ball. That'd be great. Have Wigman back here getting on the ball.
I like where you're going there. I like where you're going there. But
what?
I like where you're going there. But the quarterback that right now is your starting quarterback, as I said prior to today's show,
who?
Haynes King.
Oh,
Haynes King taking reps with the ones. Any surprise there, Corey?
No, it's not a surprise. Not in the first week of practice. The guy that was supposed to be the starter last year and gets hurt, comes back. He knows the book better, but I'm sure Wegman will beat him out here in a couple weeks. Maybe second, third game of the season. I'm sure Johnson will be right there with him. I mean, we have a nice little quarterback room there.
Look, all kidding aside, the fact of the matter is it's good to have these 3 guys on campus.
Seriously, it is.
The other thing, all kidding aside, is, Haynes King obviously is the guy that knows this playbook the best, and you could see it on the practice field. He's also the leader of this team. You could see that on this practice field. And all that is true. I don't think he's going to give up this starting job this year. But, however, let me say this, and you sort of agree with this. I think it's also clear who the best the guy with the best tools is
The
overall.
best upside. The best
The best
upside is Connor.
upside,
Yeah, the
the
Wegman's
best
upside.
arm,
Yeah.
the whole thing. It's clearly Connor, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
I don't
he's
think anybody that spent any time watching that practice thought any different.
right. And I mean, I'm sure I'd like to hear what Haynes King and Max Johnson are saying about Wegman. I want to see. That's when you find out what a guy's really like. Hey, if this Wegman, he's okay, or if he's pretty damn good. I think they're going to say he's pretty damn good.
I think everybody's going to say he's pretty damn good, and I do expect
Yeah.
him to win that job eventually. I just don't think it'll be this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
Having said that, look, King looks comfortable, man. He looks comfortable. He looks like he's over the injury 100%. He's not. You don't see him hesitating with how he's running. How he's planting, any of those things. The guy, it feels like he is over the injury physically and mentally. What do you think?
Wait till he gets hit. I want to see him get hit. I
Yeah.
want to see him take off running. I mean, I could drop back with nobody around me and look great. I mean, I do all the time. But I mean, you get me in
Don't
the
look
game.
that great though.
Yeah, you get me in the game, and you get a 6'3", 300-pound guy chasing me, and I've been injured. I've had an injury, a hurt knee or a bad ankle. You might see me, tell the ref to blow the whistle.
Blow the whistle.
Yeah, exactly. Blow it. Let's go.
That's true. That is very true. And you're absolutely right. I mean, we won't know how he feels about that injury until he is in that situation, getting some pressure with a big 300-pound defensive lineman coming up on him. So we won't know for sure, but it is a good thing to see him at least look comfortable in this setting, right? I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And look, he's running just as well as he did before. Because if he was any faster before, I mean,
what did you say he was running? What did you say he ran? Did you?
Yeah, over 22 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Yeah, my scooter didn't get that fast.
So he's looking. And here's the other thing. I'll tell you this. He also looks comfortable in operating that offense, and he looks comfortable leading the troops, right? He knows where to get people lined up. He knows how to get everybody on the same page. Jimbo's out there coaching hard on those quarterbacks, and he's spending a lot of time coaching up Connor Wigman, who needs some help, right? Who's just barely learning the playbook, of course. He's not having to spend that much time with King. King is a guy that's already starting to take the reins, and his arm not as good as Connor's, but he's looked pretty good throwing the football.
Correct.
So far, I do think he's in the lead as far as who the starting quarterback's going to be, and I do expect that to run into the season. The guy we haven't mentioned a lot is Max Johnson, who's obviously in the competition, but he's learning a new playbook. Look, you can clearly see the fact that his accuracy comes out. His ability to get the ball to the hands of the receivers in a catchable way. But man, he's got a little bit of a slower release. Boy, he's a big old guy too.
Yeah,
He's a big old guy.
he
I
is.
mean, and so ultimately his athleticism isn't quite what it is with those other two guys. I mean, does he have a chance to win this competition?
Absolutely. We talked about this before. Some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time weren't the best athletes, but they're good quarterbacks. They know how to read a defense, spot the open receiver, how to lead a receiver. It's all in accuracy. Like you said, he's very accurate. That's something that's very important. You have to cut back on those turnovers. Just because you're a great athlete doesn't mean you're going to be a good quarterback. And if Max Johnson can find the right receiver, get them in the right play, that's huge. And I don't know if Haynes can do that. He's only had a game and a quarter to show it. So, and like I said, I wasn't impressed with him that first game. You said you were. I wasn't. The second game, Colorado, the plays he was in, I mean, he didn't have a great offensive line. And so, I mean, that's going to tell you a lot. So,
and we're about to hit that offensive line, but let me just one more comment here. I just think, and Max is going to get better and better as he learns the playbook and all those things, right? Because that's what's going to make him a competitor in this quarterback competition, right? It's like you
Right.
said, being able to get the ball out in time, getting to the right receivers, to the right person in the right places, right? Those are the things that he's going to excel at. I just think he's got too much to make up between what Haynes King has already had 2 years with the playbook, right? He's already
Right.
had 2 years with the playbook. Not only that, he's had 2 years with his teammates and leading those teammates. And to
Yeah.
me, that's too much to make up for Mac Johnson. I could be wrong, but I fully expect, which I've said 100 times now, Haynes King will be the starting quarterback for this Texas A&M football team week 1. So let's talk about that offensive line, because here's the thing. You're absolutely correct. Last year, obviously a lot of folks had a problem with Calzada and how he performed, but Calzada was in a bad situation, man, because that offensive line was horrible. I'm not going to even sugarcoat this. It was horrible,
Right.
right? A lot of the reason is they had to throw Foster in there at center from day one, and he wasn't ready for that responsibility, right?
Right.
But he wasn't the only one who underperformed. Point is, the offensive line didn't play well. We got new offensive line coach Adazio in the mix, and Foster's out at track right now. Wyckoff is taking the reps at center. Father and Robinson are on the right side at guard and tackle, and then you've got Trainer and Zune on the left side. I'll say this from what I saw, and we did, obviously they don't even have pads on yet. Boy, they're big. They're athletic. They move well. I mean, they look the part. And I liked what they were doing as far as the drills and different things that they had going on for first day 1 with Adazio. We'll see how that translates as things go forward all the way through spring, into the spring game, obviously. But and not just this first group, right? They had 2 full offensive lines here. Last year, remember in the spring, they couldn't even field 2 offensive lines, right?
Right.
But they did have 2 full. They all looked the part. They all looked the part. The size, the athleticism, all that stuff. Corey, what do you think?
I think you sound like a broken record. I think we had the same thing last year. We had the size, the athleticism, and when you got the product on the field, it didn't turn
Except
out that
last
way.
year, there was a group of freshmen in that
Right.
group,
There were a lot of freshmen in there last year, and we had the transfer from Tennessee, Johnson coming in, and we had high hopes for him, and we had Green coming back. We had high hopes for him playing one tackle, Johnson at the other tackle, and we could fill in the middle. We thought Matthews was going to be our center of the future. Never, he's retired. But it's just kind of a wait and see thing for me. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm more excited about the tight ends coming in there and trying to help out, chipping away, helping out with the running game and possibly, and in the passing game. I think that'll be a big boost if our tight ends can jump in there and help out with those tackles and give our quarterbacks time, because we have talent at the receiving position, running backs. We have skill positions. It's just we have to give them time. You got to open holes. You got to, and without that, it's going to be a down. We're going to be on this downward slope.
No, that's it, and you're absolutely correct. I will ask. I did want to ask you one other question though. Here, is there a chance? Is there a chance that Wyckoff comes in here in the spring and plays so well at center that he takes Foster's job?
Well, I think you were talking about it before, that you wanted to see Foster maybe at a guard, didn't you? Didn't you say you wanted to see Foster at a guard position? If Wyckoff plays well enough, I think it might be more to our advantage if Foster couldn't move to a guard. Because, Foster's very talented, very strong. I think he'd be a great guard. He's a good center. I think that would only help us if Wyckoff is that good and can play that. It would give us more options. Because right now, that's something we didn't have. That's something we didn't have last year, was a whole lot of options.
Well, and think about this, right? Trainer's a guy that last year played a tackle and guard and can do a couple of different positions, and he can be sort of a switch guy for you if you could move Foster into that other guard spot, take Trainer off the first unit, right? he'll give you a guy with some experience that you can move around and fill holes as needed if any injuries happen or anything like that.
And they're going to happen. That always happens.
And they're
Every
gonna,
year.
right?
Yeah, it's
No,
just part of the
absolutely,
game.
it's part of it. And my last comment here on the offensive line, and we can go into a little bit of the rest of the group on offense and the skill guys here in a second. But last comment here with the offensive line is Fathery is a monster. Fathery's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Look, man, I am so impressed that he's come back and second year on campus, he looks better. He looks like a leader in that group.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm impressed with the young man, and I'm excited for year 2 for Father.
Hey, one other thing. Todd McShay released his thing. I don't know if you saw it or not. I didn't.
Mock
and
draft.
Kenyon was back in the first round.
Yeah, we saw Kenyon. He came off somewhere in the 20s, right?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you with that.
That's a great point. And as we get closer to the draft, we'll definitely go into some good mock conversation. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that Kenyon, that Leal, that all those guys end up in a good place. But it's not looking great for the Aggies.
They said Leal didn't test out like they thought he would.
Correct.
I don't understand that at all.
His stock's been dropping like a rock.
I'll tell you who tested out well was like the whole Georgia defense.
Yes.
Like
now you know why they were so good last year.
Oh man, that mock draft! Did you notice that he had like 5 players from the Georgia defense on there?
I would take that defensive tackle Davis number 1 overall.
But they say they can't because he can't stay on the field because he runs out of gas too fast. But you're 341 pounds running a 4.78. They said it's faster than what Patrick Mahomes ran. That's pretty scary.
Yeah,
that's very
340
scary.
pounds doing that. I don't care. I don't care if I can get half my plays with him on the field. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. That guy's that's a game changer.
All right, so let's go skill positions here. And so what we saw for the first group, we talked about the tight end, and you're right. I mean, being able to have Cuppa on the field is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the other guy that showed out at tight end, and we talked about Wright, but the other guy, Blake Smith, coming back from an injury, looked really good. He looked like he was running well. They running good routes, and he was catching everything. I mean, I thought he looked impressive the other day. And then Jake Johnson, Max's younger brother, tight end, looks like he still doesn't have all the timing right. He's only been on campus for a couple months, but he's another athlete, man. He ran a little corner post. Oh, man, he could have got open in the pros with that route. I mean, I'm telling you, the kid looks good. And he's not there yet. You can tell he's still trying to figure out the timing and the different things. But man, is he going to be an asset for this passing game? And maybe not this year, but in the next couple of years, and maybe as soon as this year.
It sounds like we're turning a tight end U over here, doesn't it? I mean, we've got all these this talented tight end group, and it's just a matter of getting them the ball and seeing what they can do. Because you got to be able to do both things. You got to be able to block and catch, and I'm not sure which one's more important in our scheme.
And there's the difference, right? None of these guys have yet shown that they can block a soul.
Right.
And so that'll be interesting to see. I think Max Wright obviously has been used as more of a blocking tight end over the time, and he'll continue to do that. But Baylor Cupp wasn't exactly really physical last year when he was on the field. So, he's got to improve that part of his game if he wants to continue to be the number 1 tight end here. Jake Johnson, they talked about, he's an athlete out there. Can he be a physical part of that almost a member of that offensive line? Another guy there. Obviously, Donovan Green will get here in the fall. Another guy that comes into the mix. But, Blake Smith, the same thing. Any one of these guys that looks really good out there, especially running routes, catching the football, which one of them can do their job in the blocking game,
Exactly. That's the question
That'll
mark.
be the big difference. And then the receivers, man. I mean, look, I'll tell you what, Preston looks good out there. He was running with the ones. Moose out there looks great running with the ones. Anais, obviously, who got reps at tailback and at wide receiver. So we may be seeing Anais get a little bit more time in the backfield this year again, as compared to last year, right? Where he barely ever got to the backfield. He may get into that rotation, but all those guys, man, all of a sudden those receivers look very explosive, and Stewart, the freshman, sitting there getting reps with the second team. Um, Boy, that guy looks legit. Like he stands. I'm not gonna lie to you. The guy stands out in this group. I mean, he's just you can just tell his explosiveness, his ability to get down the field. I mean, I I was impressed watching him. You know, only a freshman. He's got to learn the routes and all that stuff and the concepts and that. But as just a player and an athlete, that kid stands out.
Well, you've got to get the best players on the field. That's something that we haven't done in the previous seasons, I don't believe, like the most talented. I think Lane's a good ball player. I don't think he's one of the most talented players. I think Preston's very talented. I think Moose is very talented. These freshmen, very talented. And that's what you're seeing with Smith. He was finding ways to get him on the field. We had two other running backs that were probably better running backs than he was, give him their due, but he's a good running back himself. So he's going to find ways to get the better players on the field. And some of these guys that we've seen before, I think they might be sitting on the bench quite a bit. I think you might see the Lanes on the bench. You might see a couple of the guys you're used to seeing on the field. And where's he at? And he's on the bench. He's just not as good. That's just the way it works.
The last piece to this is the tailbacks, and L.J. Smith got reps with the first team, while Amar Daniels got the reps with the second team. But Crownover also got some reps in there. That guy's a big old boy, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some reps in the goal line, even coming into the season, right? I mean, he can be one of those guys that could be a goal line type guy. He could also get some reps at fullback where he's the blocking back. But I was a little surprised because I really believe Daniel's the more explosive player. However, L.J. Johnson was getting the reps in front of him.
Well, it surprised me last year watching the team run the ball. And on short yardage plays, we gave the ball to Ochain more than I thought we would. I thought we'd give the ball to Spiller. I don't know if you remember that or not. You're like,
I do.
What the hell are they doing giving the ball to Ochain right there? I mean,
they used to piss me off like crazy.
Yeah, I didn't understand it one bit. So, I mean, you say that, and it sounds good, but the way he's coached before, I don't see that happening. That's just what I'm saying.
All right, so overall, and I'll say this, and I feel pretty comfortable about this. This offense is going to be better than last year's, I think. I feel very comfortable with that. I think we're going to be better at all levels. We're going to be better at the quarterback, at the line, and at the skill positions. We may take a slight step back at tailback with the loss of Spiller, but as an overall, this offense is going to be better than it was last year. The defense, on the other hand, from watching the other day, they're taking a step back.
Well, so you lose all that talent, you got to take a step back. I mean, you're losing. That's where all your players are getting drafted. Just about is in the defensive side of the ball. You lose your entire defensive line, your starters, a linebacker, safety. I mean, you were a top 10 defense last year. You're probably going to take a step or two back.
Look, and the base here from everything we saw is going to be three guys with their hands in the ground and a stand-up end. Which probably tells you that they're probably going to drop them into coverage some. They're going to do some scheme stuff with them, which I don't love. But they're going to play three big guys up front. And, we had with the first group, Turner and Regis inside with a Delier, and then Rakes getting reps with that same group. And I'll tell you this. You look at that front line, and this is where we're going to take a big step back. Looking at those guys, they look good. Don't get me wrong. but none of them look ready to be the four guys that we just lost to the NFL. Right? Shamar Turner is probably the best one of them all. Adelier is going to get his first action here this coming year, but those guys aren't to the level of a sixth-year Clemens, a fifth-year Tyree Johnson. Not one guy on that defensive line showed me the explosiveness and get off of Tyree Johnson. And they're definitely not Leal and Peavy inside, right? That group is taking a step back.
Well, yeah, they're going to take a step back, but like you just said, you don't have a fifth year this or a sixth year that. You have a first year, second year, maybe a third year in there in McKinley Jackson. And I think the talent that we have outweighs what we had before. It'll take a little time. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take a little time. But I think once they get on the field, in the depth that we have, you won't see them getting worn down. You'll see them rotating those players out. They coach well. And if they're coached right, this team is going to be great. I mean, this defense will be better than last year's defense.
Look,
and when I say better, I mean better. I'm talking more turnovers, more sacks, less points. They're going to be better.
That's where I disagree with you. This defense this coming year in 2022 will be worse than last year's defense.
No.
And here's what I'm going to say. The depth, you're absolutely correct. I think the depth is going to be substantially better. We talked about Turner, Rakes, Adelier. You've also got Burris and Judy that all play those big spots inside. Not to mention the guys that are missing in McKinley Jackson and some of the freshmen that are going to be coming in. So there's plenty of bodies, and you're right. They're going to be able to rotate and do some things. But I'm telling you, this very year, they're taking a step back. This defense will be worse.
Disagree. I disagree.
Because while ultimately these guys are going to be better athletes than the guys that they're replacing, they're not there yet. They're not there yet, and they're not as explosive coming off the ball.
I hear what you're saying, but we also, that experience factor is also going to happen with our secondary. Our secondary has experience. We lost O'Neal, but I mean, we have players that are going to step in. We got cornerbacks that have been there for 3 years now. You know what I'm saying? We got our linebackers are more experienced. So that a defensive line, when we were experienced last year, we have more experience in our back half, and we have the more talent in the front half. So I think our defense will be better.
So let's move to the linebackers. And look, I think the two clear starters are set. It's done. Right. There's forget the competition because the other guys ain't catching up.
Who are you talking, Cooper and White?
Cooper and White.
Yeah.
And they looked like the best two linebackers out there, and it wasn't even close. The guys that I was hoping would come in and compete in Lee and Russell, man, Russell just still looks tentative. Just even in drills, like just hesitant. And then Lee, he just doesn't look physical.
What kind of defense were they running? It was like a 4-3.
I mean, it was a 4-2-5 with a stand-up end, right? It was a 4-2-5 with a stand-up end. Okay. So the same thing we ran last year, except it looks like Durkin's going to use that stand-up end over there, where he'll probably drop him into coverage a lot more and do different things with him. We'll have to see sort of how that plays out, but at the end of the day, it's similar to what we were looking at last year.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. I was just trying to.
No, absolutely. And so the two linebackers, I don't think there's any competition for those two guys with Cooper and White. And I will say this about White, which is probably the piece that we've been hoping that gets there a little bit better, but didn't look great last year. He seemed to look a little bit more confident. A little bit looser out there. So maybe that parlays into better performance on the field once the fall comes, because there's nobody competing with him. There's nobody going to take those reps. So,
well, that's got to be a good feeling to know if you're a linebacker at A&M, you're not going to. The only way you're getting off the field is if you get hurt.
Yeah,
it's but it's not good to be in that situation if you're A&M. It's
not, and Ish Harris, the freshman, looks like at some point he may get there. He still isn't physically ready, right? He's got to grow into it and learn it. He's not going to be getting reps this year. And the other freshman Harris that at linebacker is not on campus yet. And as a linebacker, I don't think that's recipe for success.
Didn't they talk about making a couple of those DNs linebackers? Are trying to experiment with that? Did they do any of
Donnell
that?
Harris. We'll see what happens with Donnell. I don't know if they'll play him as a true linebacker, or he's going to be sort of in the linebacker rush kind of role. But they need better. They need some competition at that spot because right now it's the two guys and that's it.
Right. Gotcha.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of the other guys ends up transferring before the season starts.
Really? Huh.
I think they're going to know that they're not going to get on the field here.
See the writing on the wall. I got you. Go ahead.
So that's sort of where I think we're at linebacker, defensive back, and this is sort of where your point is of where this defense really going to get better as a defensive back. And I'll tell you this: look, Antonio Johnson still playing that nickel spot there, and looks phenomenal. And that guy's going to could be a first round type draft pick. I mean, he's phenomenal, right?
Right.
And I do think that we're going to be better at the corners, man. We're going to have a lot of depth at the corners for sure, with a guy like Moten coming back into the mix, who's looking pretty sharp and physically ready coming back from injury. But obviously with Chappelle, Harmon is not participating right now, but he's another guy there in that nickel mix kind of situation. And then bringing back, Jones and both Jones and George to give you some more depth as well. I mean, there's lots of bodies there and lots of guys that can help at corner. You know what they don't have?
What free safety?
I haven't seen a true free safety. They were lining up Gilbert there the other day with Richardson as well. But Richardson's more of an inbox type guy, right? And
why are they playing Johnson at the nickel anyway? Why do they put Chapman in there? I mean, they got Chapman, Jones, and Jones. Why do they have to put
Chappelle?
Yeah, I think, Chappelle. Yeah. I don't understand why they don't put him up there in the nickel spot and put.
I think ultimately they're going to have to. I think ultimately Antonio Johnson's going to have to move to the back end to be the free safety, the fixer, the eraser for this team.
Yeah.
Because none of those other guys really fit the bill.
I mean, Damani might be able to. I'm not sure. I don't know. Like you said, I don't know.
That's the one place where I think this secondary is still up in the air. One of those guys, maybe it's Jalen Jones, right? Maybe that guy can go back. But somebody, Antonio, Jalen, I think it's got to be one of those two guys, unless it's one of the freshmen that shows up in Smoke Buoy, that just shows up. Maybe Anderson, who's practicing, looking good, by the way. He looked good the other day. Maybe, but do you really want a freshman back there, right? To be the guy that's covering up for the rest of your defense? I don't know.
It's not something you want, but I mean, like I said, if the talent's there, put them on the field. They're going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make them.
So I just think that with all that, with still trying to figure that piece out, and they'll have that resolved by the time spring's over, I think. But that and the setback with the defensive line and just the fact that they're just not going to be this defense is going to take a step back. So I think the offense is going to have to carry this team in 22 if we expect to compete for the SEC.
Well, that's scary thinking right there. If you want the offense to carry it, because we have an unproven offensive line, like we talked about, same issues. If you have an unproven offensive line, you don't have an offense. You're going to have a quarterback back there running for his life, probably on the IR again. I think our defense is going to be a lot stronger. I think our defense will be a lot stronger than what you're giving them credit for. I think that defensive line, we lost some talent, but we had guys that got experience last year. We have people coming back with experience. Like you said, Turner, Jackson, Rakes. We got guys that they have game time experience. Now they get to get more experience. And plus we have a good group of freshmen. I think you're going to be surprised. I think you're going to be proven wrong. I think our linebacker core is better. Honestly, Hansbrough, I wasn't high on that guy after year 3 and much less after year 6. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I'm obviously a big fan of Cooper, but I really, the problem with the linebacker, I do think we're going to be better at linebacker, but I think that the problem with the linebackers is that they're going to have more guys on them because the defensive line is not going to be as dominant as
Oh, I think the defensive line's going to be more dominant. I think when you get those guys in there, and Turner, he's going to turn loose this year. He was a freshman last year. There's a big difference between a freshman and sophomore year. You big jump. Jackson's a horse in that middle. He's going to take 2 offensive linemen at a time to block his ass.
And look, fair notion there, right? Jackson wasn't on the field the other day, but we'll see. I have a hard time believing. I still don't see who the guy that's going to be that come off the edge, explosive, go get the quarterback kind of guy. And it's because the guy they've got lined up there right now in Diggs, he's not that guy. He's not that guy.
All right. Well, I'll call Jimbo and tell him that because that's something I need to know.
He's gonna be a guy that's strong against the run and has good technique and bubble, but he's not that explosive off the edge guy. Harris, the second year kid, Jason Harris, maybe he's more of a rush in, and they had him working with the second unit. Donnell obviously is more of a rush in, more of an explosive type guy, and he's not on the field right now. But look, I didn't see him out there on Monday. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
So, all right. So, questions for the tailgate brought to you by Rawson Distributing, assisting Aggies with all their drilling needs. Aggie owned and operated. All right. So, it appears that every single Aggie underperformed at the combine. Maybe O'Neal had some positive moments. Not a lot of them even participated or ran the 40, right? Only a couple of them ran the 40, and it was all their linemen.
Right.
What's up with that, man? What's up with Aggies underperforming at the combine?
It's like a year in, year out thing with us. I don't understand it one bit. Leal, they talk about him all the time. Oh, this guy can do cartwheels and backflips and all this other stuff. And incredible athlete. He's fast, quick. Don't hear anything about him. I mean, why don't you go out there and just start doing cartwheels and backflips? Just show him, hey, look what I can do. I don't get it at one bit. So, very disappointing. I don't know what to tell you. Is that our strength and conditioning coach needs help? I mean, the University of Georgia goes out there and just tears it up. Every position. I'm reading about, Georgia lineman, 390 pounds or whatever he is, runs a 3.5 or something. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't understand it. It's just, every position.
Apparently Spiller was hurt. That's what they're saying. Which I understand. Look, if he's hurt and everything else, but none of the why is Tyree Johnson? Why is Clemens not running the 40? I don't understand why those guys ain't getting the opportunity to get out there and put a time.
Tyree needs to run the 40. He needs to show his speed. He needs to run the cone drill. You know what I'm saying?
So it doesn't seem like anybody in that group helped them their draft stock at the combine. We may leave the draft with only 4 Aggies drafted in the entire thing.
That's a shame. And you're worried about our defense not being as good as last year's.
And I'm telling you, our defense will not be as good as last year.
I'm telling you right now. We've already got how many NFL players do we have on the defense right now? Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6.
I don't know where you're getting. I don't know where you're getting 6.
I'm not talking about next year's draft. I'm talking future. I'm talking we got the freshmen coming in. I'm seeing Cooper.
Look, I'm not gonna say one thing about one freshman being an NFL player. They're gonna have to prove.
I'm talking Turner.
Right?
I'm talking Turner.
Turner's not an NFL player yet. He hasn't shown anything to be that.
No,
Antonio Johnson has. Maybe you can argue that Cooper is there. Maybe Richardson. Yeah. Who else? That's 3 that I count. That have shown.
I thought you said 4 just now.
I'm talking on our current defense.
Well, McKinley Jackson, if he shows up and plays his game, he looked like he had talent to go there when he was his freshman year. Now, last year,
did he play like it last year?
I didn't see it last year. I saw his freshman year. So I'm just saying,
guys that have played like it and shown it, there may be 3. Now look, this coming year, they got.
Wait, are you saying Jones? Is Jalen Jones not showing you anything ever at A&M?
I'm saying Jalen Jones was a liability at the corner position at the end of the season last year.
Beginning of the season, you couldn't quit praising because they went throwing the ball. They went through the ball his way. First 4 or 5 podcasts we did, Jalen Jones, All-American.
You're absolutely correct.
I know.
And then they figured out that apparently he's not covering anybody. I don't understand. Look, and the truth is, you're absolutely correct. I don't know what happened from the beginning of the season to the end of the season that absolutely where his performance just dropped off dramatically, right?
And that's what kills me. This last
it may
year,
just been the competition, right? It could have been just
we
the
were
level of
talking about the
competition.
Jones and Jones combination at the cornerbacks and how dominant they could be. And we got the same thing back again this year. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But they have another year experience. Because look how much better Clemens
Chappelle's
got.
not losing his job. Chappelle's not losing his job at the outside, starting at the outside.
Well, I'm just saying.
He was our best. He was our best corner last year, and he's going to continue. He's going to continue to do some good things. He's not losing his job to anybody. Not
that's good
Jones
if he doesn't.
or Jones.
That's good if he doesn't.
All right. Question number 2. In 2021, the offense averaged 29.3 points per game. In 2020, 32.6. Does the 22 offense surpass those numbers? And by those, I really mean both of those. So really the 2020 numbers from Kellen Mond's last year, 32.6. Mind you, let me give you a little bit of perspective about good offenses. Last year, Ohio State led the nation with 45.7 points per game. Western Kentucky, which we were very, very impressed with, 44.2. Bama, 39.9. Pitt, 41.4. Tennessee, 39.3. Georgia, who's known for their defense, 38.6, right? In 2020, those numbers are about the same. 48.5 for Bama. Florida had 39.8. Ole Miss, 39.2. So teams are up. Good offenses score up in those digits. Does this 2022 A&M offense get up there?
No. I don't think they do. I think there's too many question marks on the offensive line. That offensive line gets fixed up, then we have a possibility. We'll be better at quarterback. We'll have talent at every position on the field. There's no reason that we shouldn't, be honest with you. It all depends on coaching. If Jimbo gives a playbook over to somebody else, yes, we'll be better. We could do it. But right now, no.
I think this is our best offense since Jimbo's been here. I think this year's, the 2022 offense will be our best offense since Jimbo's been here. Do I think we reach those 39-point levels? No, I don't. But I think this 22 offense surpasses the 2020 offense and is in the 34-point range, 30, maybe even 35 if they really get going. But I expect this to be our best offense yet, and I'm going to tell you why. You've said it at least 4 times today. The offensive line, I think, is going to be better. And we've talked about the need for the protection and the different things there. This is a much more physically gifted group than the 2020 group. They don't have the same level of experience, but I think they're going to be better coached because I believe Adazio is a better coach than Henson. Obviously, they have to prove it. They have to prove it. They have to go out on the field and prove it. But that's the reason I expect this offense to be the best A&M offense that Jimbo's got. And I think we're going to need it because I also just told you that the defense is going to take a step back.
So you're looking at shootouts this year. I like it. I like a shootout.
I love it. Let's go. Let's bet the over.
There you go. That's what I like. We'll take the over all day.
Gig 'em, Aggies. AP, C Money, signing out from the tailgate.